All right. The last video that I want to make today is I want to illustrate a point that I think all of Christianity has totally lost, and that is that God is not in control, not in the sense that people say. Obviously, God is in ultimate control. Okay, He has control ultimately over, you know, the whole path of the world, and He demonstrates that. But he's not in control of your everyday life, okay? He's not out there making everyday doors open and close and all this other stuff. You notice this with Christianity all the time. They'll say, oh, God did this thing for me. They perceive this thing as good, like opening a bar or, stealing alcohol from a wedding or something like that. They perceive it as good and they say, God allowed me to do this. They give God the credit for everything that they perceive as good and everything that they perceive as evil. They say, oh, the devil did it. The devil got me today. You need to understand that God is more powerful than the devil. Okay? The devil couldn't do anything to you if God didn't allow it. Okay? You need to understand that God is not taking this active control in your life. This Jesus take the wheel nonsense. Okay? That's not happening. Okay? God's not taking your wheel. The very point is that God gave you the will. Okay? God gave you free will. He wants you to make the decisions, He wants you to drive the car. And if you crash, it's solely on you. And if you stay on the road and do a good job, it's solely on you. Okay? If good things happen in your life and God blesses you, that's solely on you. And if God curses you, then that's also solely on you. The Bible says that He sets before you blessing and cursing, therefore choose ye blessing. He's saying you choose blessing. Okay? So God is in control over the overall, like if you do well, He will bless you, and if you do evil, He will curse you. But He's not in control of your everyday life. He's no longer calling people to be preachers. He's no longer telling people to preach a certain lesson. He's no longer calling just everything that's happening in the world today, just like taking this active part in everything, like He sometimes did in the Old Testament. Now, He's just set before you blessing and cursing, and if you walk in His precepts, He'll bless you, and if you don't walk in His precepts, He'll curse you. And I see it all the time, people giving God credit for things that God has nothing to do with, and then giving the devil credit for things that God has not, like God could have saved them from that too. Like if God is, it's like look at the Trump bullet thing. Everybody's like, God save Trump. Okay. And then in Charlie Kirk, they're like, the devil got Charlie Kirk. It's like, come on. You know, if these things were happening like this, then, God would have saved both of them. Obviously, God, if God was like saving Trump, then He had the power to save Charlie Kirk too. Okay. It's not just like, it's so there's this massive inconsistency in Christianity where they act like it's just like God's up in heaven, just, oh, I'm going to just protect this person even though they're doing right. They're doing right. I'm going to protect them. Oh, and they're doing right. I'm not going to protect them. God's not just up there willy nilly just doing all this stuff like everybody says. It's completely absurd. And it's a very, very pervasive thought in Christianity that somehow God is just up in heaven, just controlling everything. No, He's given all men free will, and men are choosing to do good or bad things with it. Does that mean God does not have any control? No. Obviously there are things that God can do. Okay? He is God. Okay? But your life, your results, you work under the concept that if you walk in God's statutes, God will bless you. God will not say that person's walking in my statutes, I'm going to curse them. I'm just going to willy-nilly curse them for doing good. That's not something God's going to do. God says if you walk in His statutes, He will bless you. He's not going to change His mind on that. But if you walk against His statutes, then He will curse you. He's not going to change His mind on that either. He's not just going to willy-nilly choose to curse you for doing good and bless you for doing bad. God doesn't work that way. Okay? So God is in control, like overall, in whether you're blessed or cursed, because he sets the rules, okay? But he's not out there like controlling your everyday decision. If you decide to become a preacher and you go out there and preach, it's not because God called you to preach. God called people in the Old Testament, okay? But he didn't call you. You had that desire. You called yourself. In most cases, people call themselves. They go get some degree and then they just go apply. And churches hire them that don't know them from Adam. It is the exact opposite way that God said it was supposed to be. They're doing it their own way, and then they wonder why their churches fail. Here's why churches fail. Okay, churches fail because the people that run them are evil, and they succeed because the people that run them are evil. Okay, that's just the way it is. Okay, these fake churches out there that are evil, they don't care about you, so they'll just say anything. They don't care about truth or anything like that. They'll say anything. So they're very pleasing to the ears, which makes them very successful. People get to go. They get to hear what they want to hear. That makes them successful, okay? And churches that are not willing to just tell you whatever you want to hear, but also are just doing willy-nilly whatever they want, and they expect God to bless them, they're falling down, dying as well, okay? And I've seen so many times in my life very recently, churches totally destroying Christians. Christians going into churches and becoming Zionists, becoming everything there is because that's what their preacher does. They're trying to fit in. They just abandon what the scriptures say and they do their own thing. And then they wonder why, everything's gone south. Like everything in the world is going south. Okay, so I want to make that very clear. I want to make a couple of these concepts very clear. One, God is not in control of your life. You're making your own decisions. You're in control of your life. And whether you're blessed or cursed is solely on you. Stop blaming God and stop giving God the credit, okay? Let God take his own credit when all things are said and done, okay? When he justifies what is good and condemns what is evil, then he can take his own credit, okay? But there's no need for you to just be out there just giving God credit for every evil you perceive as good, and then out there, condemning or blaming the devil for everything you perceive as bad, okay? Because oftentimes the things you perceive as bad is something that God is doing. It happens all the time through the Bible. God does something that people would perceive as bad, but it's God's will, okay? It's God's will, and he does it, and that person, gets some blessing. Look at Job, okay? God allows some evil to happen, but he intends some good, okay? And this happens all throughout the Bible. We can't judge God's morals. He's greater than us, but just understand the way that God did it, okay? Another thing that people need to understand, this happens in the world today, and everybody says, oh, the truth conquers all. The truth conquers all. That is such a senseless thing to say. Yeah, ultimately the truth conquers all. Ultimately the truth wins. When all things are done and things are judged by God and heaven and hell and all the things that God has promised from the beginning are done and over, then yes, at that point the truth conquers all. The truth ultimately conquers, I'd say is the better way to say it. But people's out there saying the truth always wins. That's a lot of people's slogans today. And that's just such a ridiculous point to say. If the truth always won, a lie would never work. I mean, it would never work. You'd go to try a lie. Somebody else would tell you the truth would win. Nobody would lie because you would just learn that the truth always wins, and it would just be a learned helplessness. You would just tell the truth because the truth always wins, right? No one would ever lie if the truth always wins, okay? It's ridiculous, okay? If the truth always won, there wouldn't be politicians. There wouldn't be all these lies that are destroying our world. You need to understand that the world is given into the prince of this world's hands, okay? Satan is in control. He is the liar and the father of it, Okay? Satan owns this world. Jesus told Pilate, he said, "My kingdom is not of this world, else would my children fight." He said, "My children would fight, and they'd win if my kingdom was of this world. But my kingdom is not of this world." Okay? So you need to understand, in this fallen world, the truth does not win. Okay? The lie eventually takes over, the Antichrist gets his way, and God brings about the end of the world, and then at that point, the truth wins. Okay? But this idea that in everyday life the truth is going to win and all this other stuff, you need to understand is ridiculous. It's totally nonsensical. People should stop saying it because everybody out there is now saying it, and it's like, has everybody gone brain dead? Like, is everybody that brain dead that they actually believe that the truth always wins? Like, even in this world, it's totally crazy. Okay, so just understand these little like hippie things that people say is just pure nonsense. It's all pure nonsense. You can't do anything you set your mind to. If you set your mind to cutting your head off and surviving, you won't be able to achieve it. Okay? If you set your mind to, human flight without the aid of any device, you won't be able to achieve that. You're never going to turn into Peter Pan. You can't just set your mind to anything and be able to achieve it. It's absolutely nonsensical. It cannot be done. There are things that cannot be done, and it makes the sense. So I would understand if somebody says, if you set your mind to do something that is achievable, you'll be able to achieve it. But that's kind of a moot saying. That's an obvious point. Like, if it's possible to be done and you set your mind to do it, you can do it. That makes more sense, but that's not what they say. They have these little positive sayings and everybody just buys into it, and they're purely nonsense. And so I'm just saying, hey, let's just abandon the nonsense. As Christians, let's be more tempered. Let's have more reason. Let's stop falling into every trap that the world sets for us. I mean, this is such a big problem with Christianity. Like, every trap the world sets for us, we just run like a couple of idiots into it, and then we blame the world. Like, we all just run into their little traps, and then we blame them for setting the traps. It's like, perhaps maybe you could just stop falling into them. That would help a lot. Like, if you could just stop falling in the traps, that would be better. Quit blaming the world for your mistakes. But, that's almost unachievable in the world today. Everybody has just lost their minds. But I wanted to make those points clear. Obviously, you do what you want. If you want to run around acting like Jesus Christ is just doing everything and just give him credit for every evil thing you do, and then just give the devil credit for every, bad result that happens or whatever, and you just want to run around saying these inconsistent things that make Christianity look completely moronic, then go ahead. I can't stop you. Okay? I wish that I could. If I had the power to, I would. Okay? Because I don't believe it's useful or necessary, and I believe people are making Christians look like a bunch of morons. We have a group of people calling themselves Christians that believe that the earth is flat, like the whole earth is flat. Pure nonsense. Like, yeah, sure, it's flat in spots. There are spots that is flat. My yard looks somewhat flat right now, but ultimately, it's not flat. Okay? Ultimately, obviously, it's a big sphere. It's a circle, as the Bible says, and a circle in 3 dimensions is a sphere. It's just obvious, and people just fall into every moronic little trap that these people set for us, and we just need to stop doing it. No, angels never mated with That's humans. That's nonsense. That's Greek mythology. That's Roman mythology or whatever. Those are weird demigod belief systems. It's completely nonsensical. It's never happened, and the scriptures don't teach it in any way, shape, or form. Just stop falling into every new little nonsensical thing that comes around. This is not what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to be tempered, measured, reasonable. Okay? So, either way, that's my message for today. I want you guys to go out into the world, to make the right decisions, and to reap the reward of the right decisions which you've made. Okay? Now, God bless.